Oh, yes, I'm the great pretender, pretending that I'm doing well. My need is such, I pretend too much. I'm lonely, but no one can tell. Oh, yes, I'm the great pretender, adrift in a world of my own. I play the game, but to my real shame, you've left me to dream all alone. Too real is this feeling of make-believe. Too real when I feel what my heart can't conceal. Oh, yes, I'm the great pretender, just laughing and gay like a clown. I seem to be what I'm not, you see. I'm wearing my heart like a crown, pretending that you're still around. Too real is this feeling of make-believe. Too real when I feel what my heart can't conceal. Yes, I'm the great pretender, just laughing and gay like a clown. I seem to be what I'm not, you see. I'm wearing my heart like a crown, pretending that you're still around.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Welcome, family and friends of Maxwell Brett Williams. Max, of course, to most of you. Welcome to those who are watching through live streaming. You must have been getting worried as wondering where the live streaming was. We had some technical problems there, but glad you can join us now. The platters they are getting us underway. Not that I'm going to steal anyone's thunder, but of course I heard earlier on that the platters stayed in one of his hotels and they had a bit of a story, but I'm not stealing your thunder, don't worry. The platters there. At times like this we gather together. We always have done. It's what we do as humans. People cross the planet to be together at times like this. That wouldn't be unusual. People travel great distances, or even when they're unwell, to come to a funeral service, because it's a time when we just need each other. And even during times of COVID, people have been coming, and they've been coming close. Social distancing, one thing, but human need is something else. So people would greet each other with arms outstretched, because that's who and what we are, and we just need a hug. Sometimes, as I observe family and friends arriving, I can see people, no words, but just an embrace, heart to heart. We need each other at times like this. We want the family to know that we're supporting them, that we care for them, we're here for them. Wife Mary, for children Gregory, Sandy, Justine, daughter-in-law Jodie, and the special bond between grandparent and grandchild, for Georgie, for Zachary, and Shannon, and here for great-grandchild, for Zale. Isn't it interesting, the kind of thoughts and memories that come at times like this? You can actually have a memory that comes back that you haven't thought of for decades, even since the time that it maybe happened, and suddenly it comes back to you and you think, I can't believe I've just thought of that. Siblings Mervyn and Shirley. Or perhaps you go back to times when, if any of you knew him when he was a boy, with parents Gladys and William. And it's interesting just what you do recall. It's inevitable that we feel this kind of sadness. We come to celebrate the life of, and Georgie, in producing the booklet, and we thank you for that, Georgie, a service celebrating the life of, but still we shed a tear. We come to celebrate someone's life, and there's much merriment, and there'll be a good bit of laughter, but still we'll have a tear rolling down our faces. Because as humans we do both, and we can even do both at the same time. Here we have grief and perhaps also relief. There are various writings, various pieces of music that we've written to console ourselves at times like this. Some are our oldest writings, so special to us we call it sacred literature. Others are more modern. I'm free. Don't grieve for me now, for now I'm free. I'm following the path God laid for me. I took his hand when I heard his call. I turned my back and left it all. I could not stay another day. To laugh, to love, to work or play. Tasks left undone must stay that way. I've found that peace at the end of the day. If my parting has left a void, then fill it with remembered joy. A friendship shared, a laugh, a kiss. Ah yes, these things too I will miss. Be not burdened with times of sorrow. I wish you the sunshine of tomorrow. My life's been full, I savoured much, good friends, good times, a loved one's touch. Perhaps my time seemed all too brief. Don't lengthen it now with undue grief. Lift up your heart and share with me. God wanted me now. He has set me free. I like that kind of reading for a day like today because you can almost hear his voice in it as a word of encouragement to you all, typical of what he would say to you. We come to celebrate Max's life. He was such a social character, I'm told. Someone who wouldn't find it at all difficult to do what I'm doing right now and stand and speak. He was close to his sister-in-laws, brother-in-laws, and was even close to his mother-in-law, I was told, Mrs. Mack. Mrs. Mack, she sounds like one of ours from Scotland, doesn't she? Mrs. Mack. And I must admit, when I read that he had a love for his mother-in-law, Mrs. Mack, it did make me remember a Billy Connolly piece, where Billy Connolly says, I haven't spoken to my mother-in-law in 18 months. You know how it is, I don't like to interrupt her when she's talking. Shouldn't tell mother-in-law jokes. He had story after story to tell, of course. He was a great storyteller. In the mid-50s, as you know, he married Mary. He also served the country by his time of conscription and national service when he was just a lad, just 19. He owned hotels, and strangely enough, he wasn't much of a drinker, but poured plenty for others. He had a love of people with a great, if peculiar, sense of humour. He had a love of sports and was great at all sports. He loved his horse racing, cricket, tennis, and of course was a mad supporter of the Parramatta Eels. You even managed to get the Para colours in the booklet, the gold and blue. Subtle. And then there was golf. He was mad keen on his golf. He served on the committees and even as director, really playing his part. And with his love of people and socialising, there was also his love of garden and flowers, and he loved the native flowers, and hence such beautiful native flowers here today. You'll remember his love of children, the fun and games, something that went well with his personality. And then this other side to him as well, besides the fun and games, his caring side, his tenderness in the way that he looked after Mary. He loved music, like we've just heard, the Platters. He loved the Platters, the music of his generation. He loved Elvis. You'll remember him with his Elvis wig. That was always a bit of fun, I gather. His love of Ray Charles, Frank Sinatra, Johnny Cash, the Beatles, up to the slightly more modern Billy Joel. He always had the radio on. And then what about his Bella, who was always with him the whole way through? With that, I'm going to hand over to the family that they can share their memories with us. This is always a privilege to hear. I'm going to hand over to Sandy and Justy. I'm not sure if you're coming up together or one after the other, but Sandy, you're coming first. Thanks, Sandy.
My father, Max, was the constant in our lives, always reliable, caring, kind and available. Whenever I needed him, he was there for me. During the times of stress, he always had wise words. One phrase in particular, ride the waves, don't go against the tide. I eventually figured out what he meant and I was grateful. Dad's love of my mother, Mari, was above and beyond. When he was 12 years old, he would wait at the bus stop just so he could see her go by, and of course she would look the other way and ignore him. But he didn't give up. He loved her from the first day he met her, and still today his love is never ending. One of the highlights of Dad's life was when he married Mum on the wettest day in 50 years. It was during the times of the Maitland flood. The weather was so bad that they barely made it to the church. But Dad was going to get there, rain, hail or shine, as his love for my mother was so very deep. We had many holidays at our house at Toowoomba. Most weekends were there with friends and family and shared many happy times. Sometimes there were so many of us I didn't know where we'd sleep, but Dad made it all possible. Dad loved being a publican. When he decided to buy our first hotel in Wagga, I said to him, Dad, why are you doing this? He said to me, I want to give you a better life. I want to give you a better future. I had complete trust in him and I knew he was right. I understood. He never looked back after our move from Sydney. Mum and Dad relished in their new ventures, each hotel with its own challenges and new people. Dad made many friends along the way and was always popular. Being a non-drinker was a benefit in his industry as he was always focused and businesslike. He was very successful at all his ventures. Dad loved a party as he was a very social person. One time he was the star of the show when he dressed as Elvis at Fiona's 21st. His Elvis wig was very, very popular and had a fun time at the party and was passed around to all the men. By the time he got it back, it was in tatters and never got his refund on the wig. Another event, he became a bit intoxicated and no ladies would dance with him anymore. He grabbed a chair and waltzed around the dance floor on his own with the chair. Then he stole Mum's hat and went round to the guests and asked for a donation to help him pay for the occasion. He came back to Mum with his hat full of coins. By the way, the hat was ruined. He was very quiet the next day. Dad was very close to family and friends and had a large group of golfing mates that would meet regularly, and I knew he was popular and respected. He loved the game and there were some stages when Mum was a golf widow. As we all know, Dad loved to chat. It was very difficult to get away from sometimes. He would often go missing or AWOL for hours. I'm just going down the street, he'd say. And then he'd come back 4 or 5 hours later. Mum would be so worried, but I'd say, he's met somebody and doing this. This was our little symbol when he went. Then he'd turn up and we'd all hear about who he'd met and what he'd said. Dad cared for Mum when the dementia hit the family. He looked after her tirelessly and was patient and kind. When Mum went into care, he would visit regularly and he would hold her hand and tell her he loved her. He never gave up on our Mum. Dad was overjoyed with the birth of his first grandchild, Georgia. He adored her and put 100% effort into her upbringing. He loved her and she loved him. As I did, Georgie would spend a lot of time following him around, and he would take her out for food and fun. Georgie would spend some school holidays at the hotel at Foster. He would give her the keys to the games and novelty toy machines which she appreciated and enjoyed. When Georgie was older, she would spend a lot of time with her pop, watching the cricket or the footy, going out for a meal or just hanging out. They loved each other's company. There was no talking if Parramatta was on the TV playing, though. That was a definite. Dad was very excited when Zachary was born. He had a grandson to carry on the family name. And now Zach has a son, so the Williams name continues. Shannon was welcomed into our family when Greg married Jodie, a new grandson which made the family tapestry even richer. Shannon had a new pop and was very respectful and loving and appreciated all that my father was. Thank you to Georgie for all the hard work in organising Dad's funeral today. He would really appreciate your efforts. We did go up to see Mum and at the nursing home to tell her that Dad had passed, but unfortunately her dementia wouldn't let her accept it. Thank you, Dad, for the opportunities you gave us and for being a wonderful man that you are. I love you and you now live in my heart forever. A great man, a kind man, a man you want to know, a man who made life better. On behalf of my brother Greg and my sister Justine, I would like to thank everyone for coming today to celebrate my father's beautiful life. Thank you.
Thanks for coming, everyone. Max and Mari Williams own 6 hotels and 1 motel. They loved their life as publicans. Dad would get up at 6 a.m. every morning. He'd put the kegs on and get the bar ready for the day's business. His work would finish at 11 p.m. every night. On Sundays, he'd sit in the office and do the wages. Sometimes he'd nip out for a game of golf. After Max's pub life wound down, every Thursday Max, Mervyn and Cole Breen would play golf at Shelley Beach Golf Club. As they played the 18 holes, they would talk of the news of the day and solve the world's problems. They bet $1 per game and Max had a handicap of 8 and a hole-in-one twice. One time at Gosford Hotel, the Black American singing group, the Platters, were performing at the local RSL. The Platters went on a pub crawl and ended up at our public bar at the Gosford Hotel, drinking and entertaining the customers and the bar staff late into the afternoon. 3 of the Platters left the bar to get ready for the show. One Platter stayed behind, drinking and singing with the customers in a sing-along. The joint was jumping. Around dinner time, Gosford RSL rang the pub, asking Max if the missing Platter was there and to send them to the RSL immediately as the show was about to start. Max gave the Platter a suit and paid for a taxi. Max never saw the suit or the Platter again. Okay, so I'd like to say a prayer now. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Lamb of God, you take away the sins of the world, have mercy on our souls. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. My brother Greg would like to say a few words. Okay, thanks.
I'm sorry. My dad was born in 1933 to William and Gladys. Just take a moment. I'm sorry. His dad called him my little cobber. And that sort of stuck through his life. He tells me stories about the childhood that he had. He didn't get his first pair of shoes until he was 14 when he started work, and the fact that sometimes they bread and dripping. Therefore, if they wanted a good Sunday lunch, he'd trap a rabbit or whatever. And there's another story about a bandicoot that goes with that, but I'm not sure I can express it right now.
He caught a bandicoot and gave it to the family for dinner when he was about 12.
Okay, my first memories of growing up with my mum and dad were actually being allowed into their bedroom on a Sunday and sitting up in bed with them whilst they read the paper. And Fridays, Sandy and I would wait at the gate for Pop and Dad to come home from James Hardy's, and he'd always have a big bag of licorice all sorts for us.
And a packet of chips.
I'm sorry, guys. During the early years, my dad helped me with my schooling. I used to struggle, and every night he'd come in and make sure I got things done. I lacked in mathematical skills, and he taught me maths back to the front, to the fact where I now teach maths, so it's pretty amazing. When I was 10 years old, he offered to buy me a bike if I could get in the top 10 in the class. I came third in the class that year, and I'm still waiting for the bike. But what he taught me was you set yourself goals and you can reach them if you really try, and that's the way he lived his life, and I try to live mine. He taught me that I could achieve things if I really, really tried. When his father passed, he bought out his sister and his brother's shares on the house of the entrance, and that was another chapter to open up for us. Sandra and I passive smoked a lot in those days. On the way up in the car, the windows would be up at night, and they'd be M&M, I used to call them, would be on the Rothmans. So we learnt to smoke at a very early age. We always had friends and families up there. The house was pretty much full most of the time, particularly the school holidays, as Sandra reiterated too. I'll never forget the time that he decided that the vacant block next door would have been good to burn a bit of rubbish off on in the height of summer. So he's got this massive fire going, and we heard the sirens coming, and he said, "Quick, go and grab the bloody hose." And he sat up on the fence with the hose, and the fireys came in. He said, "There's no problem here, guys. Nothing to see here." And that was sort of his style, you know. He just sort of went ahead and got on with things, really. We often went prawning, and I remember one night we caught that many prawns, we filled up somebody's damn ute. I can't remember whose it was, but in 2 or 3 hours we filled the ute with prawns, and then it was back to the holiday house, the entrance, and there's a game of euchre going till about 3 a.m. in the morning, and the prawns were cooked, and then I was eating prawns like there was no tomorrow, and nobody could eat them as fast as what Dad could, unfortunately. He had this way where he could just peel them and they were gone. And even though I tried over the years, I could never keep up with him. Time went on. We came to a transition point in our life. He'd worked hard at James Hardy. He'd made his way up to the top of the pile as the top pay clerk there. However, he really couldn't see a future in it working for somebody else. He often said to me, "You're not going to make any money working for somebody else. You're making money for them," and it's so true. Even though I worked for him for years. He managed to score a lottery win. I think he got third prize in the lottery, which earned him 30k. He sold the house at Sydney, and that was the only time I ever heard my mum and dad have an argument. Mum wanted to stay, didn't like the change that we're about to go through, but Dad was very positive on it. At one stage, Mum left the house with Justine, who was only a baby at that stage, 2 years old or whatever, and he said, "Come on, we're going to get your mother." So up we went to the bus stop, and there she was sitting there with a port and Justine, and we grabbed her, and next thing I know, we're in Wagga Wagga. He worked very hard for the 4 or 5 years down there. He taught Sandra and I to drive in the back car park, which was a gravel car park, which came to his advantage maybe 6 months later when he unfortunately didn't have a beer order turn up, and he was running out of beer and the shearers were drinking like fish. And he threw me the keys and said, "Can you go out to the siding and grab the kegs, please, Greg?" I think I was about 14 years of age. So away I went, drove the car out, got the kegs and came back. It was like the Messiah returning, Yeah, all right. I'd just like to say he died on Remembrance Day this year, the 11th, 2021. And to me that seemed fairly pertinent because he'll always be remembered by, I'd imagine, all his friends and family for the man that he was. And I'd like to say in closing, thanks to Sandra and Justine for looking after him in his final days when I couldn't get there due to the terrible virus that we have upon us. However, I did manage to spend a couple of days with him before he passed, which was a blessing itself. And thank you all for coming.
Okay.
And on that note, we will remember him, lest we forget. We stir up memories, and you've all been doing that. Sandy, Justine, Greg, sharing your own reminiscence with us, allowing us in. We stir up those memories even more now as we share some pictures, as we hear Let It Be, the Beatles, something of Max's life in picture.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in my hour of darkness, she is standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. And when the broken-hearted people living in the world agree, there will be an answer, let it be. For though they may be parted, there is still a chance that they will see. There will be an answer, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Yeah, there will be an answer, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let cloudy, there is still a light that shines on me. Shine until tomorrow, let it be. I wake up to the sound of music. Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom. Let it be. Yeah, let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Yeah, let it be. Oh, there will be an answer. Let it be. Yeah, let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Yeah, let it be. Oh, there will be an answer. Let it be. Yeah, let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Yeah, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom. Let it be.
Well done. That would have been a labour of love, putting all that together, selecting from all the photos to share those with us. We're very grateful to you for going into your photo albums and selecting those. It was something of a history of fashion there, wasn't there? Down through the generations and the various styles. Very elegant. I know he wasn't a big drinker. This is one of my favourite Australian pieces, and I'm sure you'll know it. I've just included the first verse. At the end of it, you have a talking part where you say, "Cheers, Max. Cheers, Max." I love to have a beer with Duncan. I love to have a beer with Dunk. We drink in moderation, and we never, ever get rolling drunk. We drink at the Gosford Hotel, where the atmosphere is great. I love to have beer with Duncan, because Duncan's me mate. Cheers, Max. I thought that was rather fitting for him. We come together at times like this to celebrate someone's life, to share the joy that they brought to our lives and share it together. We also come to farewell someone and say, "Go in peace." We've come to that part in the service now. For this we always stand in honour and in tribute, so if you're able, I'll invite you to please be upstanding. Same with those who are watching through live streaming. You're welcome to stand with us. Max, we celebrate your life. We celebrate your life in our own. Our life is all the better for ever having had you in it. Some here celebrate your gift of life. Now we farewell you. We farewell you with words of go in peace. Earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Go in peace. Of course, he would turn round and say, you go in peace. All of you go in peace from here. I leave with you then these words of a Celtic blessing from my part of the world that fits so beautifully here. Deep peace of the shining star to you. Deep peace of the quiet earth to you. Deep peace of the running wave to you. Deep peace of the flowing air to you. Deep peace of warm, assuring, comforting love to you. Comforting love to you that you may leave here, even here, in peace. Go in peace. To another one of his favourites, Ray Charles. What a wonderful world.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, blessed day, the dogs say goodnight, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying how do you do. They're really saying I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I never knew. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful